Hello everyone, I am Adam Harris, the Global Head of the Brand Partnership Studio at Twitch, and welcome to the IAB UK Gaming Upfronts. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at one of the best gaming campaigns that I've ever seen on Twitch or in gaming itself, which saw Pringles introduce Frank the Zombie to the Twitch community. I am delighted to be joined today by some guests from Pringles. We've got Elena Mancini, who is Senior Brand Manager at Pringles, and Stephen McSweeney, who is Digital Marketing Specialist at Pringles. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have Leah, Alexandra, who is a Twitch streamer and community leader at Twitch. Welcome to the panel.
Pleasure.
Welcome to you all. The Brand Partnership Studio at Twitch, our role is to empower brands to create on Twitch. We're there to help them navigate the culture of Twitch, to navigate the culture of gaming, to figure out how to operate in live environments and how to operate in this interactive Gen Z world where digital natives want to be a part of the show. And the campaign that Pringles executed, it really is a best-in-class example of that. But rather than me just kind of talk through it, I think we should show the case study, let the audience at home see how good this campaign was.
Meet Frank, Pringles' new brand ambassador, a zombie cowboy with a newfound taste for the salty snack, hailing from the video game West of Dead. How do you get gamers to engage with Frank in a world full of so many iconic characters? Enter Twitch, the world's leading live streaming service, where gamers aren't just there for the show, they're part of it too. To achieve our goal of taking Frank from 6 foot deep to stratospheric stardom, we needed to do something truly revolutionary. So, for the first time ever, we broke a character out of a video game and into the live, interactive world of Twitch. A space where the audience could lead the action and get to know Frank like nowhere else. He came for the Pringles, but stayed for his fans. Frank traversed the gaming world, meeting streamers, playing games, and falling in love with Twitch's community. And wherever he went, they loved him too. Clocking up over 19 years of time watched together. But it wasn't just the gaming community that fell for Frank. So did the world's press. With his work done and appetite temporarily satisfied, Frank has plans to return to his home. Naturally, we can't let him go empty-handed. So Frank, we hope you enjoyed your stay. We certainly enjoyed introducing you to the world. Bye!
I love the chat reaction on that campaign, isn't it brilliant? Just how... hello Frank.
Frank.
He's back, star of the show.
Nothing changes.
Yeah.
Feel free to sit down.
Join us.
Hey, you want some help now?
Okay, thanks for coming along, Frank. I'm in the middle of a panel, so I'm just going to ask some questions. Elena, tell us about some of the details around this campaign. When did it run? Where did it run?
So the campaign started live on Twitch on the 27th of January with Leah's stream, and then it ran across 18 markets in Europe in a real multi-channel approach, so through digital, social, having influencers, and also on TV in 2 markets.
Right, and it's not the first time, Stephen, that Pringles have been involved in gaming. You've got a long history of operating in the gaming world and utilising gaming as a marketing channel. Talk to us a little bit more about that history and why gaming is so important to Pringles as a brand.
Yeah, so Pringles first entered the gaming occasion back in early 2019. And our ambition back then, and it still is today, is to be the snacking choice for gamers. And to get very technical, we can back it up with really strong consumer research that showed that people actually prefer snacking on Pringles while gaming because it actually leaves less grease on their hands. So, from our side, we have a valid role to play here. And then in terms of future growth, how we actually grew being in the gaming occasion and gaming industry, we partner with stuff like partnering with Xbox, we partnered with League of Legends, we sponsored G2's esports for the last 2 years, and all of those things build on our credibility and how we actually tapped into gaming culture at large. And then back to, working with you guys at Twitch, we from a brand point of view, there's endless possibilities. We love working with Twitch because we can really flex our marketing muscles, so to speak. And yeah, it's an interesting place to be in, and there's so much that we can do.
Speaking of flexing the marketing muscles, a lot of brands that I speak to want to get into gaming, but there's often hesitation from senior stakeholders, and you have to convince those stakeholders of the virtues of gaming and Twitch. Did you encounter a similar thing, Elena?
Absolutely. In fact, in the brand team, we were convinced that gaming was the next territory for Pringles, but we then had to convince senior stakeholders. And we actually started with numbers. So we showed them that the gaming industry is big.
No, you can't eat that. No.
No, not with. So that the gaming industry is bigger than the movie and music industry combined, and we know that these two territories are really successful already for Pringles, and that already was very reassuring. And then we showed them how the gaming industry is evolving. It's not anymore a solitary masculine environment. On the contrary, it's a very social place, and with 45% of gamers being women. And then the work that we started doing in 2019 really was useful to show them how big of an opportunity gaming could have been, and also for us to take some learnings. So we learned how to win in the gaming space. And that gave us the confidence and them the confidence that we could do something bigger and more ambitious this year.
And I guess winning in the gaming space, a lot of it is down to authentically speaking to the audience. You've spoken about that previously, Stephen. How do you manage as a brand kind of being able to authentically speak to this gaming audience while also standing out and kind of that need for innovation to stand out? How do you marry those two things?
Yeah, like from the get-go, like we always had the intention to make our brand Pringles intrinsic to the gaming community. We wanted to supplement what they're doing in their gaming lives. We really wanted to achieve something really cool with Frank, and Frank was our proxy to achieve, tapping into that gaming culture and the gaming experience. And Leah will know full well, gamers are used to seeing new and cool things. They're on Twitch for a reason. They want to see either themselves play or other people play. You have to complement that and, push it to the next barrier, or else it's just not going to cut through. And as a brand, we all know, we've all seen those brand partnerships where they haven't quite done their homework. And it's whereas, from our side, we really want to push that and be as authentic as possible. And back to your point about, comparing innovation to being authentic, from our side, we definitely see to be authentic to gamers, you really have to push innovation as strong as possible.
And from the gamer side, Leah, what do you look for when brands approach you? How do you decide what brands you work with? How did you decide that this was a concept and a brand that was a right fit for you and your community?
One of the main things you do as a streamer is you build in trust in your community, and they trust you. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure I'm working with a brand that I personally enjoy, so that if I'm saying to people, check out this brand, they're going to go, well, Leah actually likes this, so I actually want to check it out. And that's a really important part of doing this kind of thing, is making sure that you genuinely believe in the product and it's something you would use. And that's, for me at least, that's what I found really important. So building that trust in the community where they will then trust you, and if you do an activation like this, they are on board with it instead of just, tuning out, zoning out, not bothered.
That's a great segue into the execution itself. So let's go into a little bit more detail about that. Elena, shared experiences and unexpected social fun is a big part of the Pringles brand proposition. Mm-hmm. So how did you get from wanting to enter gaming and the previous work you've done to this quite far out concept of having a zombie being the proxy to communicate with gamers? Like, how did that story come about?
Yeah, so indeed, Pringles is all about bringing people together. And we know that now gaming is the place where people meet and go. We like to say that it's the new backyard. It's the place where people are able to meet even people from all around the world that they would have never had the chance to meet in person. And so we knew we had a role to play. But the big question then was how? How can we really create a mark and be relevant? And so we went to our creative agency, Grey, and we asked them, what should we do? And it all started really with a simple idea. There's always a barrier between the real world and the virtual world, the screen. What if we are able to break that wall? And so thanks to our partners Xbox and Rafuri, we started creating this character, Frank, undead, flesh-eating zombie, and we put him into the game, Rest of Dead. And then we decided to go live on Twitch and break the fourth wall to really blur the line a bit between advertising and entertainment and bring Frank outside of the game, attracted by a pop-up Pringles.
And Raw Fury, for those that don't know, are a really kind of cool and innovative Swedish publisher. Yeah. So it's also, I guess, the authenticity element was working with the correct partners to make sure that this kind of really resonated with gamers and with Leah's community.
We wanted a character that could fit Pringles. That's why we wanted to create one from scratch rather than getting a very famous character in gaming, because they already have their own personality.
Very unique. So let's talk about the first time you met Frank. That moment where he emerged into your stream. How did it actually work in practice? How did your community react to it?
From my perspective, there was two different halves to the streams. You were going into a live stream as if it was a regular sponsored stream, but then unbeknownst to them, we'd actually pre-recorded a bunch of stuff the day before of Frank climbing through the screen at me. So that, exactly, just like that. Who remembers? And it was a really intense experience because we had to create this shot that looked natural within my stream, which was obviously not natural in the slightest. And then during the live stream itself, I had to do the production myself, where it was playing the game, getting to a point where I could die in the game, then manufacturing a scenario where I could get to the right point and introduce Frank. I then had to, make sure I was pressing the right button, look in the right direction, like, what's happening? Quick, switch the scene, go to a pre-recorded segment, and then the rest of the stream was just improvising, essentially. We've got a bunch of activities we could do, let's just see where this goes.
And I've tried to stream myself, and it is really difficult because you have to play a game, you have to interact with chat, because that's one of the crucial parts of what the audience are there for. They want to talk to you, they want to interact with you. And then layer on top of that, you have to try and communicate a brand message on behalf of the partners.
Right. The good thing is about this kind of thing is it's not taking itself seriously. And I think that's one of the things that attracted me to this campaign was the fact that it was very much like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we know what's going on here and your audience will also be in on the joke. And I think that was one of the most important things. So that when we were doing things on set and it was like, well, Frank, would you like to try some flavors of Pringles? Like everyone's like, well, see what you're doing there. And it works because, they're in on it. We're on it, and we all have a good time. So
almost, we call it embrace the sellout. It's got to be, it's obvious that it's commercial. It's obvious that like zombies aren't real. Sorry, Frank. Well, no, you're real. But
right
it's all about kind of being upfront and honest with the community and that trust thing that you were talking about.
Right, and you build up a community over years, and they understand you, and they will run with it if you're lucky, which we were.
So, Stephen, let's talk about the zombie in the room. I guess Pringles, a food brand, and zombies aren't the most natural fit. They wouldn't go obviously together. How did that come about?
The Pringles zombie. No, but if you take a step back and look at gaming and zombie culture, zombies are everywhere. Frank and his friends, his zombie friends, are all over TV, they're all over films. And zombies aren't usually sociable. So we like to think that our Pringles campaign made Frank to be a little bit more social and get out into the real world. And that's how he was able to interact with Leah. He was able to interact with our streaming partners around Europe. And yeah, that was kind of the crux of it, of how it was built from the get-go. And Elena mentioned working with people like Xbox and the developers at Raw Fury, by working together and co-creating a character like Frank, that's how it all started to build and how it all started to come together eventually.
And I guess from the point of view of the audience, it's understanding the audience that they would see the in-joke that Leah was talking about, that it is the most anti-social, sorry Frank, kind of character that you could have, and Pringles is all about that social connectivity. So they saw the juxtaposition there and embraced it.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, it's not a natural thing to see a zombie eating Pringles, but like Leah was just saying, at the end of the day, they were talking about flavors, they were talking about Pringles, and it worked.
So let's now talk through some of like the marketing disciplines that are required to A, market to gamers, but B, in the live space. And the great thing about this was it invited the audience in, so they became part of the experience. They shaped the experience. They turned Frank from a antisocial flesh-eating zombie to a very social Pringles-eating zombie. And it didn't take itself too seriously. So as a marketeer, Elena, how did you kind of resolve that and be able to kind of adapt to this kind of new skill set that's required to speak to this audience?
Yeah, no, indeed. So our objective was that Pringles had to be the #1 snack of choice for gamers, and to become that really needed to be where gamers go naturally and where it feels authentic for them. And on Twitch, everything happens live, so we had to embrace this live thing. Of course, we were freaking out. We had no clue. I remember going through what had to happen, or at least what were the key points that had to happen over and over again. All the senior managers have been like, is that really going to happen live? Will we be able to control what is happening? Like, no, it's live. Like, okay, they will have something in their ear, but we can control just until a certain point. But then, yeah, that was what made it unique and what it really made it feel natural.
We spoke to Leah about how she selects kind of the brands and that she wants to work with. How did you decide that Leah and Frank would be the match that they turned out to be? The perfect duo, yeah.
Well, yeah, indeed, the choice of the streamer was a big part of the fact. And with our creative agency, we did a lot of research. We looked at a lot of hours of streams of Leah and other influencers to really find the one that we thought had the right personality for Pringles and that could be a good contrast with Frank. And when we saw Leah, we fell in love. We were like, she has the perfect vibrancy, the perfect energy. We see her work well with Frank. Yeah, great job.
Zombie magnet, who knew? And Leah, from a community standpoint, obviously you knew your community would respond well, but did anything surprise you about how well this actually went down and how positively Frank was received and how they jumped on board?
Yeah, I really want to say, yeah. I really want to be like, I was so surprised. But I suppose I spent years cultivating a community who are, they'll just get on board with it. I'll do something weird and they'll go, all right, well, this is now normal, I suppose. I wish I could say I was surprised, but they all jumped on board immediately and they were all just like, right, well, welcome Frank, welcome to the stream, I suppose. And we had emotes and they were all happy to use the emotes in chat, all suggesting things that we could do together. And yeah, they were all completely on board with it, which is testament, I think, to the fact that on Twitch, there are so many different types of communities. And it's so important to find that the right community who will jump on board with an idea. And that might not be my community for everything, you know, but for this, it worked very well, so.
And Stephen, were you surprised about how well this actually kind of worked? Obviously, it's live, so as Elena was saying, anything can happen, but
we were watching it live behind our screens, working from home, and we were like, oh God, is something going to go wrong? But no, thankfully it all played out perfectly. I think, back to Leah's point, she maybe wasn't surprised that they all went along with it, but I think, from a brand point of view, we had high expectations for the campaign in terms of how they're going to react and things like that. And I think we can safely say that it blew our expectations, and we're obviously really, really happy with it. But I think what surprised us was how natural it seemed and how everyone took to it from the get-go. Especially that initial breakout scene when Frank exited out of Westwood Gate and came into Leah's bedroom. Like the reaction on the live chat was amazing to watch, especially as the marketeers on the side of it. It just ticked all of our boxes. So it was really good.
I always think it's very crowd-like, that chat, when something happens.
Exactly.
And you would see this, it almost bounces, doesn't it, when something happens. Yeah.
I was trying to tell everyone beforehand without telling anything, just like, you need to come to the stream, it's going to be a good promise. Like, just watch it.
And it was a good one. Let's talk about the results. How successful was it?
For us, it was really, really successful because, as we were saying, we did not know the reaction of the audience. And we were really scared the moment that he broke out of the screen, like, okay, let's see, what will be the first comments? Like, love, hey, what are we going to do? And instead, we saw thousands of comments coming in all about love. We saw more than 25,000 people stayed for the full 2 hours of the streams. Wow. And you think 2 hours is a movie time. And most people fall asleep during a movie as well. We saw just the chat, as you were saying, bumping up, and we saw a lot of fan art popping up on Twitter. We saw the same great results across Europe because Frank, after Leah, went and met other influencers across Europe, and also there.
Show, as like we like to say.
Exactly, a lot of resonance. It arrived until Latin America, so really great results.
Well, so the reaction, people actually. Obviously, they're part of the experience on Twitch, but they actually took it beyond that. Exactly. So as a brand, you must be delighted with
partnering with gaming influencers like Leah and then the guys around Europe as well. And that's, back to the point of being authentic. It was good for us to know that, we felt part of their community. Like they were thanking us for working with smaller creators around the gaming space, which big brands typically don't do. So that was great for us to see as the brand.
And you added value to their experience, I
exactly.
guess, which
it was fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was fun. Bit of fun.
We had all these scenario planning of what are they going to react if they do like negative comments. We had to use none of them because it was just overwhelming love for the brand and the campaign. So that was great.
You can tell I love this campaign. It takes so many of the best practice advice that we give to brands. You clearly understand your right to play in the space. You were authentic to the culture, as we've discussed. You supported the creators and the communities, which is a hugely important part because they need to make a living doing the thing they love, and brands are a crucial part. And you invited the audience in, so rather than pushing content at them. So from our perspective, it does tick a lot of kind of those best practice boxes. I guess my last question for all of the panel, including Frank, is what advice would you give to other brands who want to communicate with the gaming community, who want to get into gaming and utilize it as a marketing channel? Elena? For
me, it's really critical to don't interrupt. So pull the audience in, engage them. Don't push advertising to them. It's a moment for them to have fun, and you should have them get involved in it.
Stephen?
Definitely. And the main point for me is do your research. Gaming is a wild space, and the best of times you have to know what you're doing. Put simply, do your research, have fun, and try and do the best campaign that you can.
Work with some expert partners.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Leah?
Twitch is a wild place and it changes every single week. And the most important thing you can do is be in on the joke, is make sure you are integrated in the community and the audience, and you don't just see it as another video platform, because it isn't. It's an entire community of people who have in-jokes and insane amounts of community spirit in many different forms. And it's really important to understand what you're getting into before you do it.
And speaking of being in on the joke, Frank, anything to add?
I think we agree.
Yeah, I think we agree. I couldn't have groaned it better myself. Thank you all so much for being here at the IAB UK Gaming Upfronts. My thanks to Stephen, to Elena, to Leah, and to Frank, who seems
making a mess now.
Yeah, he's right. Okay, he's off. He's got his loot. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Frank the Zombie's manic diary meant that he couldn't make it down to be in the studio, so I caught up with them after recording to ask the team a quick Q&A. Elena, you talked a couple of times about music and movie and the comparison. That feels like quite a straightforward, emotive sell. You talked about taking the numbers to people in the business to sell it, which feels quite a rational thing. When do you think gaming gets to that point where we get as excited about it, perhaps, as what we do with music and movies?
Yeah, I think that apart from the numbers, gaming is not yet there. Comparing it to music and movies, people still think of the old stereotype of a gamer. So they still think of a male in a dark room, alone, maybe a bit fattish, but it's totally the opposite, you know? Just think of esports, like they're real athletes. Yeah. So it really has just more potential. Also thinking about the audience. Watching a movie is a passive activity. Watching a stream is an active activity.
Yeah. On risk, Stephen, you were there in the room when the sell-in on, we're going to have this zombie who's going to come out of the game, be part of Twitch and then go back in and be very different. What was the feeling in the room, the barometer?
I think it was a bit of a monumental moment, because this is certainly the most far-out campaign that we've done. It's so different. You know, we've never worked with zombies before in our lives. I think, you know, the reaction was mixed, to say the least. I think, you know, a lot of people instantly either loved it or some people didn't quite love it. And at the end of the day, we took the risk, took the leap, and ended up with a really, you know, award-winning campaign. You know, we were shortlisted for Cannes. You know, we got there. There was, you know, backup options in place. You know, we had plan Bs in case zombies weren't. I know. So we had an alternative character developed. Thankfully, we didn't go down that road, Frank. But yeah, no, we managed that risk accordingly, and I think it paid off. We can all say.
You've got, well, Pringles have got such a rich heritage in gaming, and you've been doing it for years. You're one of those real front runners. Was it nervousness around doing something different in gaming, or was it nervousness around the theme, do you think?
I think it's a bit of both.
Right.
You know, we've established ourselves in the gaming world, but we're still relatively new. We've done 3 or 4 or 5 years in gaming, which is still quite new. Like Elena was talking about music and TV, we've done that for generations almost. Whereas gaming is still relatively new to us. You know, doing something different is always a bit scary, but it paid off at the end of the day, which we're quite happy with.
Were you there when someone could do, because anything that you do that's format busting is great that it's first, sometimes a challenge in trying to meet that demand. What was the feeling when they came to you and said, yeah, we want to come do this thing, no one's ever done it before?
We saw who was involved, and Gray and Pringles did an amazing job of pulling in the right partners, and that's I think the secret to the success of this campaign is they got the specialist knowledge of the people that they require to kind of activate this. So they consulted us predominantly on the live execution. How would we do this live so that it resonates with the community? They worked with Leah so that the content sat right within her community. They worked with Raw Fury to make sure that the character sat properly within their game and was developed within their game. So it really was a true partnership in every sense of the word, and I think that's why it was successful.
What for you is the perfect brief though, Leah? Is it something that's quite prescriptive and you don't have to think about too much? Or do you prefer something that you can put a bit of yourself into and play with it a bit?
Yeah, I really don't like following a sort of laundry list of do's. You know, do this.
Yeah.
I like that in this particular campaign. There was a lot of flexibility and trust that I understood my community well enough to use that flexibility to the advantage of both myself and the brand. And I think it showed really in the end.
And what else are we going to see from Frank? I mean, is there a sequel? I mean, what's coming up? Where are we going to see him next?
Well, at the moment, he's still in West of Dead, so you can find him there. And then let us know, Frank.
The world is indeed your oyster. It's a brilliant campaign. Thank you so much, including Frank, for being part of Gaming Upfronts. It just really is best in class. Thank you so much for sharing all the detail.
Thanks for having us.